Neopets finally unveiled the plot questline that will unlock the Varwolf pet 5 days ago, and people are big time mad about it. This is absolutely going to need to be addressed by the Neopets team. When you get to the Neopets homepage, there's a pop-up saying that whispers and ghost stories are spreading in the haunted woods about strange creatures. You're going to go on an adventure with Pan, the Neopet in the preview image. When you click on the prompt to meet with Pan, it takes you to the haunted woods. You're supposed to find him in the scary cave, but there's no hint in the text for that. It's implied that there's a cave in the Varwolf Awaits image. The scary cave is in Neovia. You get there by going to the Wanderer camp first, and then clicking the option to sneak past the camp. In the upper right corner of the map above Neovian printing press, hover your mouse over the cave and a pair of orange eyes will appear. This is actually really cool though. If you go to Neovia and don't see the cave, if you don't see the eyes when you hover your mouse around, it actually means you haven't done the Haunted Woods hunt daily. You need to do that daily in order to unlock access to the cave quests. I love that there's a trigger for that. That's really cool. Later on in the video though, I'll show you how to get to the Haunted Woods hunt daily. It's in the Haunted Woods and it's hidden. So I'll cover that later. Click that and you'll be taken to the scary cave. Scroll down and you'll be introduced to Pan. He was really introduced in Tales of Decardia, which is a standalone app. I actually finally started playing it a couple of days ago and he is so adorable in it. He is an archaeologist who works on dig sites, so I'm not sure how he's qualified to be a biologist, but I don't know if that matters in Neopia too much. I also think I remember him being part of the Void Within plotline at some point, but the plot's dragged on for so long that I think I've forgotten more than I remember. It's been like 3 years at this point for this plot, and it's like 10-12 chapters maybe. Like it's gone on so long. Anyway, scroll to the bottom of the cave text and Pan will show you some clues he's collected. These are pretty blatant hints for locations in Haunted Woods and Neovia that you'll need to visit for next steps. There's a chewed up apple for apple bobbing, a tombstone for the Forgotten Graveyard, and a tambourine for the Wanderer camp. As you visit each location, the clue will disappear from the Scary Caves page. First is the Wanderer camp, and this is a discussion for another time, but Neopets really needs to update its website to get rid of the various isms and phobias. I realize there's a larger discussion also happening right now about transphobia in Neopets, but the racialized cannibalism and anti-wanderer depictions over the years, including an anti-Romani slur still in a game, is a really serious problem. And honestly, I'm uncomfortable with the Egyptian depictions and can recognize that as problematic. And I know Neopets can't help that people offsite sexualize that, but I really hope that the new leadership of Neopets is working on this. Anyway, in the Wanderer camp, you encounter Gilly. I say Gilly, I don't know if it's Jilly or Gilly, it's a British name, but I say Gilly. She is a Usul who was prominent in the Tale of Woe plot, but she was in another plot before that. She's a famous adventurer in Neopia. She asks if you want to join her and some others in singing adventure campfire songs, but Pan says that you're too busy and asks if she recognizes the broken tambourine that was in the cave. In return, she asks what you and Pan are looking for, and he had given a clue to that answer just a few lines prior when he told her that y'all are looking for, quote, a more concrete picture of its lair, end quote. You'll need to type in map, M-A-P, in the box and click confirm. When you do, she'll give you a piece of a map that she casually already has in her pocket. If you go back to the cave at this point, the tambourine will be missing from the clues. The next two places you'll visit are in Neovia. First is apple bobbing, which now changes my background every time I visit it. Has this been happening with anyone else? Maybe this has been happening all along and I don't actually remember it because it's the first time I've actually paid attention to apple bobbing. I normally just click on it for a second and then exit out right away. Zero attention paid. Anyway, when you go to apple bobbing, Pan bobs for you, which is nice because apple bobbing is gross, and retrieves a map map piece for the scary cave. When you visit the Forgotten Graveyard, a ghost Usul, I think, has a very cute message for you, asking for you to remind it of the name of a smell it misses. I kept wanting to answer this as winter, but the answer is rot, R-O-T. When you enter rot in the field, the ghost giggles and says it wished it could still eat, then it disappears and leaves behind a map piece that you pick up. I desperately need the story of this Usul. I love it so much after this 2-second interaction. It's my baby. I just want to stick it in my pocket and protect it forever. I love it. Now that you have all 3 items, return to Pan in the scary cave. The dialogue will be updated. Pan spreads the map pieces you've collected so far and realizes that you'll need to search over all of Neopia rather than solely Haunted Woods and Neovia for clues and map pieces. He gives you hints to visit the Battle Dome in Tyrania, Finneus and Altador, who's been in a million plot lines, libraries and bookshops, someone educated in Brightvale, and more people in the Haunted Woods. I don't think the order here really matters much beyond needing to visit Altador early on, so first I went to Altadorian archives in Altador to visit Finneus. When you arrive, Pan explains that the 2 of you are searching for map pieces in connection to the story about whatever is going on with the scary cave. Finneus takes notes of the Bitten apple part of the story and says he has a book about a farmer who befriended invisible creatures that ate figs from his tree and taught him about good fertilizer and fermented fruit. Now remember this, that the story called the creature the fermented forager. You'll need that name later on. Next I went to the Faerie bookshop in Fairyland where Seshatia, the library fairy, popped up. Honestly, I went to a bunch of other places next, so I was checking a bunch of bookshops around Neopia. Anyway, Pan lets her know that y'all are looking for information on mysterious creatures and haunted woods, which, babe, like 90% of the haunted woods is mysterious creatures, but the library is way more professional in responding than I would have been and asks if you know the name of the creature. This is where you'll enter in fermented forager from the Altadorian archives. You just need to write fermented forager. She says she remembers that from an Altadorian legend. That's fitting. This is the most substantial physical description of the creature you're looking for so far, that it's a shadow with thick fur, bright golden eyes, and long, dripping fangs. Side note, I think that the Varwolf looks good. It was a great model when it was introduced in like 2005 or 2006 in an April Fool's Day announcement, back when companies took April Fool's Day seriously and barely had modernization on the art style because it just didn't really need it. I'm very excited to eventually get one. Next, go to the Battleground of the Obelisk in Tyrania. You'll encounter Professor Lambert of the Seekers, and he gets excited to see Pan. They talk about their letters to each other, which is just so cute, and Pan says that the last recipe Lambert sent over was a hit with his husband before remembering that you're there on a mission. But I want to listen to them talk about archaeology and recipes all day. Neopets, you are introducing cute things in this plotline that I want more of. I want to read their letters with each other, their little pen pal letters. I want to listen to them talk about their recipe. Anyway. Professor Lambert calls Sandro over because he lived in the haunted woods, and Sandro wants to know what you're wanting to know about. There will be a text box for you to type in Haunted Woods Legends. When you do, Sandro says there are ghost stories about rotten food suddenly appearing, and he says to visit Neovia if you want to get to the bottom of the stories. Click return to the scary cave there to save yourself some clicks, because that's a faster way to get to Neovia than going back to the map and starting back over. When you get to the cave, click the red backwards button in the top left corner to get back to Neovia, then visit the printing press. When you get there, Willa, the shopkeep, is there with a customer named Reginald who you need to speak with. I think I did this part a little out of order because I didn't know I was looking for Reginald until this text came up. But Pan says you know of Reginald's knowledge through an other Haunted Woods legend, likely referring to the Tale of Woe plot when he saved his sister from angry villagers who thought she had cursed them. Neopets' previous plots get dark. Like, there's cannibalism and murder in the previous plot lines, but also just turning fairies into stone, taking Neopets hostage. There's constant war in Neopia. I have tried to explain the larger Neopia plot to people as adults, and everyone has just been like, oh, I had no idea. I was just clicking things as a kid. And same, when I was a kid, I had no idea there were plot lines. I was just clicking things because they were cute. I just wanted a cute pet. I was madly in love with Illison. Like, I didn't know there was anything going on. If I had known, I would have been more obsessed. So anyway, Pan asks Willa and Reginald if they know of map pieces to navigate the scary cave. Willa pulls out a book and the four of you review it, where you learn that the rotten food piles associated with the ghostly creature are centralized to the brush just outside Neovia. Reginald then finds a map piece inside of the book and gives it to you. At this point, I went to Brightvale and a few other incorrect places. King Hagan is the correct place for the next clue. When you click on Brightvale Castle, Pan tells you about some of the historical figures depicted in statues on the way up to the king, who you then see and bow to. King Hagan is intrigued that you're there to request his knowledge rather than trying to impress him with yours, which is a slight joke on a daily. There's a daily to impress him for a high score and avatar. Hagan then says you have to impress him before you get any information out of him, and you'll be prompted to complete the Wise Old King daily. You can choose random options from each of the drop-down menus, then click Impress King Hagan. Hagan? Am I saying that correctly? King Hagan. I think I'm overthinking it. Anyway, impress him with your wisdom. When you do, he'll give you a riddle that one ingredient alone cannot make a stew, and many ingredients are needed to make a feast. This is a clue that you'll need to visit the cooking pot later on in the quest line. As you walk away, Pan's a little bit shady, a little bit petty. He says what the king told y'all is obtuse, but then he says not to repeat that to anyone, especially in Brightvale. Like, sir, you are saying that while you were directly in the castle. You haven't even left the castle and you're talking about the king like that? Do you really think you're not being eavesdropped on every second in that come on. So at this point, this is where the quest line starts getting janky. Like, the economy is in shambles right now with items being overinflated because of this quest line. So the last clue is to visit someone educated in the haunted woods. This is going to be the brain tree, which is a giant tree with an even bigger brain. Trying to explain Neopets is so funny. I genuinely love it. I'm not even joking. It is so fun to try to explain Neopets to people. But the brain tree has a daily for you. This is a normal daily. If you're not familiar, he asks every day when and where a random Neopian figure died or was born, or when something important happened. To get both halves of the answer, you then need to complete 2 quests for the Esophagor, who is also in the haunted woods. It's like I don't know how to explain the Esophagor. He's like a giant goo thing that crawls out of the ground and eats whatever you give him, I guess. But when you complete 2 quests for him, he gives you both halves of the answer, then you report that back to the brain tree with the exact answer. And it's random, so you can't just Google the answer, you have to do both halves of the quest. Right now, don't even bother doing it, honestly. Just keep on playing Neopets and ignore this point of the quest line on. The items for the Esophagor's quests are massively overinflated in the shops and auctions. I ended up spending almost 1.5 million Neo points on mine, and that's absolutely nothing compared to what's happening now a few days in, because I did mine the day after this came out. It's way worse now. Items are being listed for 50 million Neo points and more. I'm not trying to pocket watch your Neopets playtime, but don't spend 50 million Neo points on something worth like 2,000. Just don't do it. You can do it. You can do it. I'm gonna judge you a little bit. But I'm just a stranger on the internet. My opinion doesn't really matter. If you are going to, and also like eventually if the prices ever calm down again, this is what's gonna come up next, okay? So you're going to pick up the quest from the brain tree, then visit the Esophagor and pick up the first of his quests, buy whatever items he's requesting, and you can use the shop wizard for this. It's not like a fairy quest where you're banned from using the shop wizard. When you have the items he requests, return to him and give him the items. He'll then give you 1/2 of the answer to the brain tree's question. Then pick up the next Esophagor quest and do the same thing. Get the items he requests again and bring them back to him. Then he'll give you the second half of the answer. At that point, return to the brain tree to give him both halves of the answer to his question, and he'll tell you to search high and low across the haunted woods for items and give you another clue that you will need to eventually visit the cooking pot, telling you that sometimes decay needs to be cooked down and transformed, which is exactly what happens there. Now, this is a clue related related to the new daily Haunted Woods Hunt. If you click the skull, lantern, tombstone, book, and shovel, you can uncover items, or there's a chance you won't uncover anything. Premium users can run this daily twice per day, and if you're not a premium user, you'd have to watch an ad to run it a second time every day. Now, this is a major source of annoyance for a lot of Neopets players right now, and part of the larger discussion about how Neopets seems to be more and more pay to play as it's trying to stay in the black. So at this point, there are a few items keeping you on pause. You'll need to collect the rest of the Scary Cave map pieces because you only got like 5 and you need 9, and you might have received duplicates. You need 9 different pieces to piece together. And you'll need to collect 3 items from the Haunted Woods Hunt to eventually take to the cooking pot, which is the step I'm currently stuck at, and I expect most players will be stuck at this stage for months or until the Neopets staff rebalances this somehow, because these items simply are not dropping for people. To collect the rest of the Scary Cave map pieces, Haunted Woods Hunt and the Wheel of Extravagance, which is 100k Neo points every day, have the possibility of rewarding them each day, but the faster way will be to trade for or buy them from other players. Once you have all 9 map pieces, visit the treasure maps page with them in your inventory and it'll refresh to unlock your deeper access into the cave. When playing Haunted Woods Hunt each day, pay attention for the putrid pumpkin, hungry fungus, and mound of rotten fruit items. Once you have all 3, you'll take them to the cooking pot at Mystery Island and mix them together to get the decaying pumpkin surprise. Once I'm actually able to finish this part of the questline, I'll be able to make a proper guide to unlocking the Varwolf. Now, this last part of the questline is igniting pure fury amongst different Neopets communities online. I get it because FOMO is a real beast in the Neopets community and gaming communities as a whole, and I have a lot of thoughts about that, but also we're adults. Adults are the ones keeping Neopets alive. This is a children's website, like it's a children's video game, but adults are really the ones playing it. And I don't know about y'all, but I work a lot. I have other responsibilities and a social life, plus my actual hobbies, plus video games, and Neopets is not my top priority. I do not have the time to grind 50 million plus Neo points for immediate gratification. I'm also learning patience and unlearning FOMO, so I'm okay with waiting if it's a reasonable amount of time. If it hits the new year though, and these drop rates aren't balanced, I'm gonna be irritated. Everything related to a plot needs to be fairly accessible within that plot or people just bounce. It's not 2005, there aren't millions of players to trade with like there used to be in the old plots. These drop rates are abysmal and completely decided by RNG, and there are thousands of other video games for people to move to. I've also seen posts saying that the Neopets team is introducing something in the Neocash store to unlock Varwolves instead of following the plotline, which makes it 100% pay to play, which is a massive issue. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't seen any evidence, just people posting very confidently, which I don't know where that came from. There are also a lot of posts complaining that the Varwolf shouldn't be locked behind a rare plot to begin with because the design's been public for 20 years. I actually don't agree with that. It makes way more sense for new species to be introduced with these quest lines. They just need some fine tuning so people don't have to drop 1 million plus Neo points like I already have and 50 million plus like others have. I do understand being annoyed at the price gouging. Economy balancing in Neopets has been an ongoing discussion over the last few years, but not to sound like Econ 101 or a business major weirdo, supply and demand basics. Like, of course, if you have a lot of people clamoring for a new item that is already rare to begin with, the price is going to be jacked up in auctions and shops when it's available. That's just what happens when you have a lot of people competing for a very small amount of things in a market that operates the way Neopets does. I get being annoyed about it, but that's also just how it works. It is annoying to see real life being replicated in video games though. I've seen other critiques that this questline is also just basically rude, which I kind of agree with. You get half of the map by completing the quests and have to trade for, buy, or hope for RNG drops for the rest. And because it's going to unlock a new pet species, those prices are going to be inflated almost forever. There are items that have been millions of Neo points for 20 plus years, and we're not told what the items we need for the cooking pot are. We have to rely on outside crowdsourcing. Neopets in general, I think, has a huge issue with relying on outside crowdsourcing for information instead of sharing the information themselves, which I've never understood. Maybe back in the day it was a marketing thing, but there are just too few Neopets players now to rely on outside volunteers to constantly data mine for you. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Whatever. I also think part of the issue is people build up expectations for how a video game should unveil a new plotline or update, and then get mad when the company does something different. I'm guilty of this myself. I I do this all the time. I think there are a lot of valid and also petty, irrelevant complaints happening simultaneously right now, but there are a lot of intense emotions surrounding this. The Neopets team will need to address this quickly to kind of calm this down as much as they can this week, ideally, but they're busy with the advent calendar event starting today. This absolutely does need to be addressed by the new year, though. I am really excited to eventually get a Varwolf and genuinely like this adventure plot to get one. I just wish some things had been done differently to make this a less clunky rollout. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you're liking this Varwolf. If you actually have a Varwolf yet done that you unlocked through this questline, because it looks like most of us are not there yet. So let me know what you think. Alongside the launch of the questline to actually unlock the Varwolf, there is a new avatar available where if you view the pet lookup of an avatar pet, you'll receive the new Howling Varwolf avatar that you can use on the Neo boards. So that is a new easy avatar for your collection.